Hi, I'm the Brad Lloyd, and this channel is all about helping you with your Apple smart home. Nanoleaf is a well-known company within the smart home community, and I've reviewed several products from the Nanoleaf Essentials line, which includes the first ever thread-enabled A19 light bulb and LED light strip. Today though, I want to talk to you about Nanoleaf Elements, a totally unique product that combines both art and smart lighting. These work with Apple HomeKit, as well as other platforms such as Google and Alexa. The HomeKit integration is what I'll be focusing on today. Are Nanoleaf Elements worth adding to your Apple smart home? Stick around and I'll tell you all about them. Last year, Nanoleaf released Elements, which in some ways resembles their Shapes and Canvas product. In fact, Nanoleaf even sells hexagon shapes. Like Shapes and Canvas, they're modular smart panels that adhere to the wall, and depending on the number of panels, you can create a variety of interesting and unique shapes and patterns. In particular, these Nanoleaf products have been very popular for gamers. Elements is a little different though. To start with, they're not RGB. Instead, you can adjust the light temperature from a very warm 1500 to a cooler 4000 Kelvin. Gamers are probably not the primary audience for Elements. Elements are designed to add style and fit well into your living space even when they're not in use. We just recently finished our basement. We're grateful for the extra space, including my new studio where I am right now. And of course, I just love having new parts of the house to add more HomeKit tech. We just have some finishing touches, including some decor that we want to add. With mostly empty walls though, it was easy to find a space to add these Nanoleaf Elements, and I think they fit in quite well. Although it's a basement and comfort was our main priority, we still want the space to look classy, and the natural wood look of the Nanoleaf Elements complements our space perfectly. If you're looking to add or update your home decor, then it doesn't get much cooler than with these Nanoleaf Elements. Let me tell you more about these panels, including what I like and what I think can be improved. A big thank you to Nanoleaf for sending me both their starter kit and expansion pack so I can test this out for you. The starter pack costs $299.99 Canadian, and it includes 7 panels, a controller, power supply, and of course, all of the connectors. Expansion packs are available for $99.99 and provide you with an additional 3 panels. In total, you can combine up to 22 panels per power supply and up to 80 panels per controller, likely more than you'll ever need to worry about. Honestly, for most people, I think the 7 panels that you get in the starter pack is enough to create some really cool designs, but it's great to know that you can keep adding more panels. You may expect that these work with Thread, and while they do work as a Thread border router, they actually communicate using the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi band. As of right now, the border router will only expose Thread support to your other Nanoleaf Thread products, but full support for your other HomeKit Thread devices is supposed to be coming soon, which can be helpful if you don't have a HomePod Mini or the latest Apple TV 4K. The fun begins with coming up with your design. Make sure that you have the Nanoleaf app downloaded and go to the Layout Assistant. Here you can choose Elements, select the number of panels that you have, then move them around to find the layout that you want. You can also check out Nanoleaf's Inspiration Hub to get some cool ideas to get inspired. Another helpful option is the Shuffle feature, which randomly comes up with different configurations based on the number of panels that you have. Once you have a layout that you think looks nice, you can preview it in your room to see how it will look. Once I was ready to install, I laid out my panels on the floor and measured the width. I then measured the area of my wall that I wanted them installed and used painter's tape to roughly mark my center point, then my height and starting position. You can also play around with the direction of the wood grain, so it's probably best to have this all planned out before you start sticking the panels to the wall. Now if you're like me, then you may not be a fan of having a power cord running down your wall. I understand it and it's not a huge deal. You certainly wouldn't want a device like this running off of batteries where you'd have to charge it all the time. But if you just paint the cord to match your wall, then it'll help it blend in a little bit more. This could be helpful, especially if you have a dark color in your room. Each panel has adhesive along the back that easily sticks to the wall. Before affixing, it's a good idea to insert your connectors. I initially missed installing my power connector to my first piece, though luckily once the panels are properly adhered to the wall, they snap off and back on pretty easily. For the first panel I used a level, but once I had that one installed, it was pretty easy to keep the rest level as I added the remaining panels. Nanoleaf recommends applying solid pressure to the middle of each panel by rubbing your fist in a circular motion for 30 seconds to make sure they're secure. The installation overall was really easy, and the most difficult part was really just deciding on the configuration that I wanted. Then it's time to add the Nanoleaf Elements to HomeKit, and you can do this either from the Nanoleaf or the Home app. I used the Home app to add the lights, but then I went into the Nanoleaf app to set my orientation of my lights. This helps with scene direction and touch and swipe gestures, which I'll get to soon. So let's talk about the different ways to control these lights. Let's start with the included controller. Most times I don't use the controller, instead I rely more on using Siri and automations, though I still appreciate the convenience of having physical controls. Here you can turn the power on or off. There's a button to dim and another one to brighten. You can cycle through your default or saved scenes. You can also press and hold this button to save a current scene. The shuffle button will cycle through your preloaded scenes. And lastly, there's a button to cycle through your rhythm scenes. Next, let's look at the Nanoleaf app. Although we can mostly control these in the Home app, you'll need the Nanoleaf app to find your scenes and customize some settings, not to mention installing the occasional firmware update. By clicking on the device, you can control the power and the brightness. You'll also be able to choose some really cool dynamic scenes. Nanoleaf Elements includes a built-in microphone that works with rhythm scenes. Rhythm scenes are easily identified by the music note to the left of the scene name. There are 13 scenes available, and you can find even more in the Discovery tab, though most of them are RGB scenes, and you'll likely find some that you love within those 13 default scenes. You also have the option to create your own scene, though again, probably not necessary. If you're thinking every time you want to activate one of these scenes you'll be forced to go into the Nanoleaf app, then don't worry, because these scenes will transfer over to the Home app as long as you have Scene Sync turned on. Now let's go into touch controls. Here's where you can customize up to 4 actions using different gestures. Here's how I have mine set up. Swipe up, brightness up. Swipe down, brightness down. Swipe left, power. Swipe right, next random scene. Next, let's talk about touch actions. Here you can configure your panels to control various HomeKit accessories and scenes. Select the panel that you want to use as a button, click the option to enable in HomeKit, and click Save. Then you can go back into the panel and choose a scene, or configure it right in the Home app, which is what I recommend. Within the Home app, a new tile will appear in the same room as your elements, and you can configure an action using a single, double, or long press. For each button that you want to use touch controls for, they will all appear in the same HomeKit tile as button 1, 2, 3, and so on. This is a really cool and bonus benefit of the Nanoleaf Elements, but I wouldn't recommend getting too carried away. I've stuck to using just one panel for touch controls for now at least. I could see myself using more in the future, but it could be difficult to keep track of what controls what if you add too many scenes to the various panels. I found the controls to be a little hit and miss as well, so just something to be mindful of. Another interesting feature that you may want to try is auto brightness. This mode will auto adjust light level based on the brightness of the room, so it gets brighter during the day and more dim in the evening when there's less light in the room. You can also control the minimum and maximum brightness. I've tried this feature and I can see it being useful for some people, but personally not a feature I think I'll use often. When controlling Nanoleaf Elements from the Home app, it's pretty basic. You can control the brightness and light temperature. As mentioned earlier, your scenes will transfer over to the Home app, making them easy to activate. You can also take one of those existing scenes and add other accessories as well. For example, when I activate my Firefly scene, my E-flare and hue down light also turns to a warm white. Since these lights are in HomeKit, they can be controlled using your Apple devices, such as your iPhone, Apple Watch, iPad, or HomePod. You can turn them on, off, adjust the brightness, or set a scene. You can utilize automations, perhaps use a motion sensor to have your elements turn on automatically. Currently I have an automation that activates my Sahara night scene at 7:45 a.m., but only when someone's home. And then they turn off with my good night scene at the end of the day. I also change the scenes in the evening sometimes just to change things up. And when we're hanging out here in the evening with music, I'm really enjoying the Bloom rhythm scene. It's probably pretty clear that I'm loving these lights. They work well and they add some style and interest to our wall. They are amazing, but there are a few opportunities, starting with the price. At $300, it's a purchase that will require some thought, planning, and maybe even saving for some people, especially if you're looking to add more than just the 7 panels that are included in the starter kit. These are an investment, but so is a piece of art that you may plan to purchase to hang on the wall had you not gone with Elements. Perhaps there's a trade-off here. When these panels are in a bright setting, there are some dark spots. I don't personally find this distracting, but it is noticeable and worth mentioning. I'd love to see more choices in addition to the wood grain, like a gray or whitewash finish. If you've seen my house, then you know my wife and I are huge fans of the color gray, so that would be awesome. Leave me a comment and let me know what other options you'd like to see made available in the Elements line. Lastly, I was a little disappointed that they don't communicate using thread. It's a little confusing because they actually work as a thread border router for the thread-enabled Nanoleaf Essentials light bulb and light strip, yet they communicate using 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. It's not a huge deal and they work fine using Wi-Fi, I just prefer to keep my Wi-Fi devices to a minimum. And if they already work as a thread border router, could they not just communicate with thread instead of Wi-Fi? Those are my main opportunities, though overall I'm really happy with the Nanoleaf Elements. These are such a unique product. They bring in some natural color tones to my basement, and they match my mirror's air diffuser quite nicely. For us, they also add some real interest to an otherwise pretty empty wall. I think these are worth considering for your smart home, though everyone's space and design preferences are different, so you might choose Elements, or maybe you prefer other Nanoleaf products such as lines or shapes. If you already have Nanoleaf Elements in your home, then leave a comment and tell me how you like them and what your favorite feature is. I also have Nanoleaf lines that I haven't installed yet, but I'm really excited to get these on the wall and try them out. Of course, I'll let you know my thoughts on those once I've had time to fully test them out. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.